In 2018, a woman named Nina suffers from Tourette syndrome, and it causes her to make uncontrollable movements and sounds. One day, she goes to apply for a new job in a school, as her life's dream is to work in a school and help children. When the principal reads her resume, he is impressed by her very high level of education, and intends to hire her immediately. But Nina starts doing the strange movements. The principal then asks her about that, and knows that she is suffering from a nervous condition. So, he reverses his decision, and hands her the file again, and tells her that they will call her later. When Nina gets up to leave, a teacher speaks to her, and tells her that it is difficult to find a job in the teaching profession because of her condition. Then advises her to look for another field to work in, so that she doesn't waste her time. Nina thanks him for his advice, and tells him that she has a goal, and she will not give it up. Nina returns home, but is still determined to learn a lot of things and develop herself, and always stay focused on her goal, which is to become a teacher. She goes every day to job interviews, and hopes she will be accepted once, but she gets rejected every time. We then see Nina when she was a child in school, suffering from a lot of bullying by her classmates. One day, the principal asked to meet her mother. He handed over the file of her daughter, and says that Nina was supposed to go to a school for people with special needs. When her mother came home and told her husband, he told her that the principal is right, and it seems that he was so cruel to his daughter. Even Nina used to put a lot of handkerchiefs in her mouth, in order to avoid the sound she was making. When we go back to the present time, we see Nina and her family having lunch. Her father speaks to her, and tells her that he found a job in a bank for her. But Nina refuses, and tells him that she wants to work in a school. Her father makes fun of her, and tells her that there is no school that will accept to hire her with her condition. Nina gets annoyed by his words and not finishing her food. After a while, her brother tells her that the principal of her old school is calling her, and Nina runs quickly to respond to him. She is surprised when he tells her that she has been appointed with them at the school, because there is a teacher who left the school, and they must appoint someone in his place. Nina is so happy that she has the opportunity to achieve her dream, and tells him that she will come for the interview tomorrow. The next day, Nina goes to the principal's office, and talks about the syndrome. The teachers around her aren't happy, especially a teacher called Wadia. But the principal agrees to appoint her, and sees her as an ambitious person, and he knows that she will make a difference at school. After that, the principal asks her why she wants to work as a teacher despite her condition. Nina tells him her story when she was a child in school, and all the students used to make fun of her, even the teachers. One day, she was attending a theater at her school, but she kept making strange sounds, and all the people were looking at her. After the theater ended, the school principal came and asked her to go on stage, because he wanted to talk to her. He kept asking her about her condition, in order for all the students and teachers to know that she can't control it, and promised her that from today, the whole school would treat her as an ordinary child like the rest of the children. Then, Nina tells him that she wants to be a teacher, in order to teach the students to be good people like him. And here, the principal impresses her so much. After that, he takes her on a tour of the school's classrooms. She sees that the school is very classy, and all the students are rich people's children, except for one class. Its name is 9F, and all students there are from poor families. They came to this school because their school was closed. Then the government issued a decision to admit them to this school, and the principal tells her she will be responsible for this class, but warns her that the students are lazy, and their morals are bad. But Nina becomes excited about the work, and tells him that she is able to deal with them well. Then, she leaves him, and goes to the theater that she was talking about a while ago. Meanwhile, a group of careless students enters the place, and they smoke cigarettes and play cards, so Nina realizes that these are students of her class. But although their way and how they look aren't promising, Nina smiles and gets excited to start working. When the time comes for her first class in school, she enters the classroom, but the students come after her, and don't pay her any attention. Nina begins to introduce herself to them, but the students start to laugh at her because of the sound she makes. So, Nina tells them about Tourette syndrome, and informs them that it is something that she can't control. The students feel empathy and stop teasing her. until she sits on the chair and falls, and they start laughing at her again. But Naina tries to take advantage of the situation, and she laughs too. After a while, a clever student called Akshay is fighting with a student from the class 9F named Adish, because Adish and his companions cut his ball off. But the teacher Wadia comes and takes Adish to the principal's office to be punished. After that, we see that Naina trying to get them to pay attention to her, but they don't care at all about her words. And instead, they keep playing and making pranks as well. Even they hang her pictures in the street and write her number under it so that people annoy her. One day, they bring a box and put small balls and an explosive in it. And when Naina enters the classroom, this box explodes, making a very loud sound, and breaking the glass as well. When the principal knows what happened, he brings the students of 9F into his office to punish them. But Naina goes to the principal to defend them, and says that this explosion was done by her, as she was conducting a scientific experiment for them. The principal knows that she is lying, but forgives them because she defended them, and makes them return to their class. Then, the principal talks to her, and he says that these students have no hope, and it isn't right to keep defending them. Naina asks them to give her one last chance, to prove their efficiency and change them. But the principal tells her that she has a chance for 4 months, until the end of the current semester. Naina agrees, and takes it as a challenge. When she returns to the classroom, the students sit very respectfully, and they appreciate what she did for them. Then, Naina talks to them and tells them that she wants to see them in a better place than they are now. She collects her things and tells them that they will meet again tomorrow. But if she comes to the class and doesn't find them, she will submit her resignation to the principal and leave them alone. The next day comes, but Naina arrives at the classroom and finds it empty. She loses hope and feels that she was wasting her time. At the same time, Mr. Wadia's class is very effective, and all the students are present and focused. But suddenly, Naina finds that all the students come together, and she feels happy because she will start the road with them. From that day on, Naina decides to try different methods with them in order to make them focus on the lessons. And she takes the students to the schoolyard to explain the physics lesson to them in a fun way. Then the day of the meeting of the parents of the students comes, and Naina is sitting and waiting to talk to the families of her students. But she is surprised that time has passed, and no one came to class. Meanwhile, Naina meets Mr. Wadia on her way. He makes fun of her because she explained the lessons in the schoolyard, and tells her it will be better if she goes and explains the lessons to them in their homes later. But Naina doesn't get upset at all. On the contrary, she takes his words as advice, and she has a genius idea to go to her students' homes to talk to their parents. But when Naina gets there, she gets shocked by the areas in which they live. On top of that, some students don't have water even in their homes to drink, and they have to stand in the street in order to bring water. Then, Naina visits the home of each student, and she feels sorry for them. The next day, Naina goes to school, and gathers the students, then talks to them about their future. But they tell her that they don't see that the school helps them with anything, and this is because they aren't clever at any of the subjects. But Naina is able to prove to them that they are wrong, and says that each one of them is talented in a certain field. Then tells them that it's all that matters is to care only, and all the students are convinced by her words. After that, she asks each of them to bring a paper, and writing down their fears and the things they hate. In order to encourage them, she also starts writing a paper with them about her fears. Then, they fold the paper in the shape of a rocket, and she tells them to do the same. After that, they go to the roof of the school to fly these rockets. So, Naina tells them that they shouldn't be afraid, and not let anything stop them from now on. Naina then hugs them, and they get very excited. On top of that, their interest in studying begins to increase. Naina keeps creating different ways every day to explain the lessons and make them love to learn more. But when Mr. Wadia sees that the students are really starting to change, he gets annoyed and feels jealous. One day, Adish is walking with his friends at school. He meets a girl from Mr. Wadia's class, and it seems he likes her. Also, she wants to get to know him, even though he is a simple person, but she is from a rich family. She offers him to go with her to their laboratory to see the new project that she is working on with her colleagues. On their way, she keeps explaining to them their project, and says that they are making it for a big competition at the level of the whole country. But her colleague Akshay keeps bullying them, and says that they won't understand the words she says, until a girl of the 9F students replies, and tells them that they had done something wrong in the project, explains to them how to solve this problem. Akshay is surprised because what the girl said is true, and the 9F students keep helping them with their project, and dealing with them in a very good way. Meanwhile, Mr. Wadia comes, and he is surprised that the 9F students are standing with his students. He speaks to them in a very bad way, directing his words to Adish, and keep teasing him, because he is working as a car mechanic. So, the 9F students leave, and feel that they are less than the rest of the students. The next day, Adish is in the library with his friends, and they see Akshay there. So, he keeps teasing him until Akshay gets angry, and they start fighting for the second time. But Naina comes to stop them from fighting, then orders Adish to leave and return to his class. But he gets angry, and tells her that she is like the rest of the teachers, and only care about the rich students. Naina gets annoyed by his words, which makes her gets nervous, and keeps making the strange movements. He makes fun of her, and she is going to slap him. But she stops herself at the last moment, and leaves very sad. Meanwhile, Mr. Wadia goes to speak to her, and tells her that the students have no hope. But she doesn't care about his words, and tells him that these are her students, and no one has the right to interfere with them. The next day, Wadia gathers the teachers and the principal, to show them the project they are going to present to the competition. As Akshay is responsible for presenting the project to them, and they are very impressed with it. But suddenly, a breakdown occurs in it and it explodes. They don't know the reason for this, until Mr. Wadia finds something in the project that caused all this. And he realizes that Adish is the one who did all this, in order to take revenge on him. Then, he goes to class 9F, and tells Naina that one of her students was the one who caused the breakdown of their project. He speaks to Adish in a bad way, but tells him that Akshay deserved it because he was bullying him. Mr. Wadia tells him that he will be punished, and will make the principal expel him from the school. Meanwhile, he asks the rest of the students if anyone is involved in what happened. All the students stand with their friend, and say that they are involved with him, and refuse to leave him alone in this matter. So, the principal gathers them all outside his office, and tells Naina that there is no other option except expel them from school. Then tells her that they had been working on the project for 6 months. Naina doesn't know what to do, but says sorry to him, and tries to convince him not to expel them because that will break them, and has a big effect on their future. She asks him to let them take exams only, and they will graduate, then he will never see them again. The principal is convinced of her words, and tells her that he agrees, but on the condition that they study at home, and never come to school anymore. Naina is forced to agree, and she thanks the principal for giving them another chance. Then she goes out to the students, and informs them that the principal won't expel them, and that they will be able to take exams, but they have to study at home, because they aren't allowed to go to school again, and that she did her best to get that. The students blame Adish, because he was the reason for everything that happened. Naina goes to sit on her own, then cry and feels very sad. Meanwhile, we see the students sitting together, and Adish comes to apologize to them. They forgive him, and decide that they will fix what they did. The next day, they go to Naina while she is sitting in the restaurant, and they say sorry to her. Then, they ask her to come back to teach them again. Adish talks to her about his fears, which he wrote down in the paper, and tells her that she is the only person who can help him. Naina is affected by his words, and she hugs them. She then tells them that she will help them to pass the exams. Since that day, she has been meeting them in places outside the school, then starts teaching and encouraging them to do their best, in order to succeed in the exams. One day before the exam, Adish is sitting with his friend in the workshop where he works, and they are studying together. But suddenly, the gatekeeper of their school comes, and asks him to fix his wheel. Adish is surprised when the gatekeeper gives him the exam paper, and tells him that he can bring the exam to him without telling anyone. Adish agrees and goes to his friends, while they are all sitting and studying. He gives them the exam paper, and tells them that they don't need to study anymore. But they get angry at him, and tell him that it's not right to waste Naina's efforts and cheat the exam. They even refused to see the exam paper, and they all left him. The next day, the students go to school to attend the exam. But Adish is surprised that the exam isn't like the paper he took from the gatekeeper. All the students keep solving the exam with all they can, until the time ended, and the teacher takes the paper from them. After the exam, they go to meet Nina to reassure her that they did well in the exam. After a while, the result of the exam appears. Adish and his friends go to see their results, and they find out that they all passed the exams, and one of them also becomes one of the honor top students. They keep celebrating, and are happy that they didn't disappoint Nina. After some days, Nina goes to the principal's office along with Mr. Wadia, and they inform her that her students cheated in the exam, and that the gatekeeper leaked the questions to them. That is why they succeeded, not else. But Nina is trusting her students so much, and knows that they have succeeded with their efforts. And when she goes out to tell them about that, they admit to her that they had taken the question paper, but they didn't even look at it. So, Nina believes them and tells them that she trusts them, and knows that they didn't cheat in the exam. The next day, Wadia goes to class 9F and finds it empty. After that, Akshay comes to talk to him, but he is very happy. And when Mr. Wadia asks him about the reason for his happiness, he tells him that he is the one who sent the gatekeeper with the fake questions to the students in order to make them fail. Mr. Wadia remains silent without knowing what to answer, until he walks away. Meanwhile, the principal holds a meeting to let the school know that 9F students passed the exam because of cheating. But Mr. Wadia speaks in front of all the students and tells them that the truth is otherwise, and decides that he will take all responsibility instead of Akshay. He says that he is the one who sent the fake questions to the students, and that he feels guilty. Then, he asks Nina and her students to come and honor them with the Medal of Excellence. He then tells Nina that she is a distinguished teacher and she is right in everything she said. After that, he goes to collect his things and resigns. But Nina goes to talk to him and says that she knows that he isn't behind what happened, and asks him to not leave school. She also tells him that her students are working on a new project instead of the one they ruined, and she will be very happy if he becomes their supervisor for this project. And Mr. Wadia agrees. The day of the competition came, and their school succeeded in the competition. Also, they take the first place. Since that day, all the students start to love each other and play together with their teachers. 25 years later, we see that Nina has become the principal of this school. When the day of her retirement comes, all the teachers and students say goodbye to her. And because Nina was able to be a great teacher, she also becomes a beloved principal. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you in the next video.
Back in my bag and I gotta brag, I do this shit for real. When we was down and we had nothing, we had to share a meal. We put the shit in overdrive with no steering wheel.